Okay, first episode of the Hey Simsie podcast. Here we go, and we've got a cat. That's gonna happen a lot, you guys. I'm gonna warn you. I mean, we got a cat cam though. That's a good thing, right? I'm looking in the viewfinder. She wants to be on camera so bad. Wow. Perfect. Perfect timing though. Okay, but you guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited about this. I hope you are. Also a little bit nervous. I don't know. I don't often do uncut videos that are this long. It's probably going to have a cut at the 30-minute mark or so because my camera only records for 30 minutes. But otherwise, completely uncut podcast unless something terrible goes wrong and I have to cut it. But the goal is to not cut this podcast. Oh, let's back up though. Podcast. I know. We've got the first episodes going on this channel and the rest of them going on my new podcast channel. See, I just messed up right then. I usually would cut it out. So how I paused, I looked over to the viewfinder. I'm not going to cut it though. This episode's going on here, and the rest are going to go on the Hey Simsie channel. It's linked down below. Subscribe to it. They're going to be on iTunes too eventually. It's just I need to make that all happen. I don't know if it's live yet on iTunes, but if it is, it's linked. So, I mean, again, links, there's a Twitter, there's a Tumblr, and the goal of this podcast, it's called the Hey Simsie because I'm going to have myself answering your questions or talking about your topics. It's like you guys say, hey, Simsie, let's talk about school. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about school. But, you know, that's kind of the goal. The tagline is that it's an advice podcast from a person with little to no life experience because that's me. I have little to no life experience. I'm currently 17 years old. I just graduated high school, started college in, what's today? The 30th. Okay, in approximately 18 days. Well, 21 days, because it starts on the 20, or 22, because, okay, I feel better now. I've got 22 days before Doom. No, we'll be fine. But I asked a while ago, I think I did a soft announce of this podcast on my Tumblr 4 days ago or so, as soon as I finished the channel art, and I was like, guys, if you want to submit some questions, go ahead. So on Tumblr, you can go on there, you can just go to the submit button, and then you can put a whole question, you could ask for advice, you could be like, Kayla, talk about ghost stories, and then I'll pick some topics, and we'll have things. I've got the next 4 podcasts kind of lined up already, but otherwise, we're open to talking about things. I know number one, my biggest request was to talk about starting in a new school, starting high school, starting middle school. And so I'm going to talk about that probably next week, a back to school advice from Simsie, because I went through public school. I've got some experience, maybe not some good experience, but I've got some experience to talk about, and that's the plan there. But otherwise, I mean, we're just going to talk. Today, I want to talk about, this is probably pretty bad, I want to talk about bad middle school experiences, and just bad friend experiences kind of in general, because I got a bunch of questions. Mostly my questions were about back to school, starting high school, I'm gonna be a freshman, give me some advice, and also I've got these awful friends, what do I do? And so I'm gonna talk about that a little bit, because I feel I'm gonna kind of get ranty. If you like my speed builds, you'll like this, because in my build videos I kind of just talk for 20 minutes. Today we're gonna talk for 45, 50 minutes, we'll see. I mean, that's the goal. So I'm going to just talk about friendship and my experiences with that, because I've kind of addressed in the past, I had a really bad middle school experience. Not to scare you guys, because trust me, your middle school is probably going to suck a lot less than mine did. Because if you put on a scale, right? There's Simsie down here and you guys up here. You'll do great. I did not do great. I just had some bad friends. And if someone had been there, here's my mindset, right? If I had a person who was young enough, I don't need no offense, mom, but when your mom is it's gonna be okay, it's just middle school, you'll get through it. It's hard to have an 11-year-old self relate to a person who's in their 40s. It's don't worry, it gets better, because you're what do you know? You're old, But I feel if I had had a person like myself who was 17, just did high school, just did the whole thing. My cat is being annoying. I'm sorry if it's distracting. I don't know. But if I had a person like me talking about it when I was younger, I feel it would just be easier to go through it all. And so I'm going to talk about what happened to me in middle school, because again, I got a bunch of questions. I've got one, someone was how do you deal with bullies in school? How do you drop a friend nicely? How do you deal with Susans? So we're going to talk about those things, but I want to address, I want to tell my story, because I've gotten into my middle school experience in the past, because I talked about, oh, I had an awful 6th grade year, but I didn't really tell the story of what happened, and I feel now is a good time to do that, because I had some terrible friends in middle school, next level bad friends, and it's unfortunate that it happened, but I mean, they're nice people now, sort of. They still follow me on Twitter. No, actually, they don't follow me on Twitter. Maybe they're not nice people. That's my judge of character, is if you follow me on Twitter, you're nice. If you don't, you're not nice. That's how I judge things now. I'm kidding. Okay, but so these people, they're my friends. Okay, so let's address this first. If you're from like other countries, because I know it doesn't work this way other places, but middle school is 6th through 8th grade where I live, and that's from when you're like 11 to 13, almost 14. So like, this is when I was 11 this happened, which is, again, these are just the worst years of your life. If you're if you're starting middle school, it's gonna be fine. But like, just people are growing up, they're trying really hard to fit in. And so your main goal when you're like 11, 12, 13 is to be like the rest of the people you know. And it's very bad to be weird, right? When you're like 11, because you want to fit in so desperately. And I was a weird kid, And so, like, for example, I had a YouTube channel where I made videos with Littlest Pet Shops, which are like little toys. Yeah, that was, I was weird, And so, again, no one knew about that, though. If they had found out, I would have ruined my life if they knew about that. So good thing they didn't find out about that one. Well, they do now, but, I'm not 12 anymore, so it's okay. So I was a weird kid. I didn't really talk. I was very quiet. Still am pretty quiet in person, but, like, in school, I was very quiet. I didn't speak probably ever in my middle school classes. Like, I never raised my hand, I never talked. I had like a few close friends. Like, going into middle school, I had like my elementary school friends. So I had like my core friend group of like 4 good friends that we all kind of knew each other from, like, we were from kindergarten to 6th grade. We were all just like super tight, because that's how it works. Like, you have your friends that are in your classes and you just kind of grow up together. And so coming into middle school, I had this tight group of friends. And I didn't really talk to anybody else outside of that. I was just very shy and really anxious and like having panic attacks, didn't know what was going on. Like, I just, in one of those parts, like, I didn't know what a panic attack was, but I was having them. And so I was like, wow, I'm dying, like that kind of thing. Like, it was a bad experience all around. And then coming into middle school, I forget when in the year this happened. I think it was probably close to like November time. So kind of close to the beginning of the year, like school starts in August. And then by November, this all kind of went down. So I came into school with my friends. I had like 4, again, like a core friend group of like 4 people. And we would all like sit at lunch together every day. And we would go, so when you get off the bus in the mornings, because the bus probably gets there at like 8:15, school starts at 8:30, say, I don't know what exact times, but like say like you have like 15 minutes before school actually starts, but you're still on campus waiting for class to start because you got off the bus. And so in the mornings you would go and you would like meet up with your friends and go stand together and then wait for class, then you would like walk together and stuff. And so we would go and we had like a spot at these, because in Florida, here's another thing, other tangents. In Florida, a lot of schools here are like completely outdoor campuses. So there's like outdoor hallways kind of, and then there's like so like the doors to the buildings, it's kind of like a motel, how the doors are on the outside, like instead of just like one big long indoor hallway with classrooms, there's like outdoor hallways. And then I'm not doing a job explaining this, I don't know, it's normal for me, but it's kind of weird for other places. But we also have like outdoor seating for lunch tables, so there's like an indoor cafeteria, there's also like some picnic tables outside where you can sit for lunch. And so we had like a spot in the mornings, we would go stand by the picnic tables, right? And now every day, I would get off the bus and go stand back there with my friends. And then one day, they just stopped showing up. So I got off the bus, went over to the table, and then no one was there. And I was like, oh, must be late or something, I don't know. And so I waited there, and no one came. And then went to lunch that day, and no one showed up at lunch tables. Like, I was just alone at lunch. No one came to lunch. And I was like, oh, maybe they're just, like, homesick. I don't know, because I was very young, very naive. I was 11 years old. Like, I had a phone, but it was one of, like, it wasn't an iPhone. It was, like, a little, like, red Nokia flip phone. It wasn't even it was, like, a slide phone, If I don't know, it was like a little slide phone, only had 9 buttons, like, it was a lot. I wasn't gonna, like, text my friends, because I didn't have a way to contact them. And so I was like, maybe they're just sick, I don't know. And so next day, same thing happens. No one shows up in the morning, no one's at lunch. And so at this point I was kind of like, this is weird. They were in class, like, why weren't they there? But I wasn't gonna, like, say anything because I was too nervous to, like, ask where they were. And this happened for, like, 2 weeks. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm just sitting alone. Like, what am I going to do now? I don't know. And so I found them at lunch one day. And this sucks to talk about. I don't even know. I didn't like confront them. I probably just like found them and then went over and sat with them because I didn't have anywhere else to go. Like, wasn't going to keep sitting alone at lunch. So I think I saw them and then went over and just like went and sat down. And then they didn't speak to me. Like, no one even acknowledged that I was there. And so this, again, it's like there's my 4 best friends, supposedly. And then, like, they have some other friends, too, that are all sitting there. And I, like, sit down, and no one acknowledges me. And so what do you do in that situation? Like, how do you even handle that? I don't know. I was 11. Like, even now, like, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd probably be like, hey, guys. And then no one says anything. You're like, okay. I'll just eat my carrots then. Like, I don't know. And so it was really awkward and terrible. And then I forget, they just kept, like, they started talking to me eventually, but they just would say, like, mean things. They would kind of make fun of me. Okay, and then I asked one girl, I don't know how it happened, but I remember this one girl who was one of my core friends, like, friends, so she was, like, a friend of a friend, but I knew her for my whole life at this point, and she was like, nobody actually liked you in elementary school. We all hated you back then, too, out of nowhere, and I was like, okay, like, that's good. Just imagine, like, nobody actually ever liked you in elementary school. We just were all nice to you because we felt bad for you. Like, that was what I got from her, out of nowhere. So they all ignore me in the mornings, they abandon me, they don't speak to me, and then I found out they never even liked me. So, like, I had this group of fake friends that supposedly befriended me because they felt bad for me. Because I guess I was pretty annoying in elementary school, granted, and I was super weird, but, like, I guess I had no real friends then either, and so when I get to middle school, they all abandoned me. I had no friends, but I didn't have anywhere else to go, so that whole year, all through 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade, I didn't sit anywhere else at lunch. Like, I kept sitting with them all through lunch of all 3 years because I had nowhere else to go, and so I had these fake friends that I would go to lunch with and then not speak to because I didn't have, again, like, I had no other friends. I wasn't going to sit alone, so I just went and sat with them for 3 years and then just dealt with it, I guess. And now, like, we're civil. I don't even think, to be honest, because I've had classes with these girls in the past, like, recently, like, senior year, I've been talking to them, I guess, and they don't even really acknowledge that it happened. Like, I think they don't even know that it was that bad, but, like, picture this. For 3 years, every single day, I would go to lunch and then not speak because no one would speak to me. And how do you handle that? Like, it's, also, I have a timestamp here. I'm recording, I'll move it over here, actually. I have my recording software open so I can see how long I've been going for. So you might see me, like, looking at things. I'm getting off topic. But, like, that happened to me in middle school, right? And then it happened again freshman year. Because I had, like, a couple friends that kind of came through middle school with me. I have one friend, actually, one good friend that I knew all through middle school and was friends with then. So, like, when I got abandoned, she was, like, in some of my classes, and she was also this is gonna sound so bad. She was, like, also the weird kid in middle school, and so we kind of bonded over that, and we had, like, our little squad. It was me, her, and someone else, but the other girl went to a different high school, so we kind of fell apart. And by fell apart, I mean, like, fell out of contact. But I had, like, one good middle school friend that I'm still friends with to this day. Like, I would consider her one of my, like, 5 best friends, which is a good thing. But maybe 6 best friends. I have, like, I don't want to forget anybody, but I have, like, one good middle school friend that lasted all through my school years. But she was not one of these original 4 that, like, abandoned me in middle school. And I remember, like, oh, another thing, they spread rumors about me. Like, this one time, I remember I was probably, like, in September or October, maybe later, of the, 6th grade. I was gonna say freshman year, 6th grade. And I don't know, okay, the thing is, it happened so long ago, it was, like, 6 years ago now. I don't know what happened exactly, but I remember that there was some rumor spread that I was, like, calling one of the girls the B word. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna be clean on this channel, but I was calling her a female dog, okay? Supposedly. I was not. I did not. I was so scared to say bad words in middle school. I would never have done that. But supposedly I was doing that. And so they were all, like, gossiping, like, oh my god, can you believe Kayla called Susan this word? And they're like, oh, no way. And so I, like, got confronted about it. It was like, I never said that, I swear. And so I started sobbing at school. And this is, like, before school even started. So I went to my first period class, and I was just sobbing. And I went and I just sat in my seat in, like, the back of the classroom, just sobbing. My teacher was like, Kayla, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was sobbing. Oh, that was a good time. Yeah, so again, like, it's not even that big of a deal, but for me back, because it's just, like, they said that I said a bad word, but I didn't say a bad word, and I was so upset about it back then. But I was a very fragile child. Like, I was, yikes, but so my point here is that I had some really awful friends in middle school, and I know that a lot of you guys do too, which is pretty bad. So I got a lot of questions when I asked for these advice topics to talk about. They're like, Kayla, like, how do I deal with that situation? Because obviously I did not handle it well. Clearly, because I'm still scarred by it to this day. But I guess let's talk about a better way that I could have handled that when I was young, because I think that me sitting with him at lunch every day for 3 years was probably a bad choice, because my cat, I like look over and I see her in my viewfinder right there, and you're welcome. I've got a guest on today's podcast. It's my cat. But so, okay, middle school. I feel like me sitting there every day at lunch was very bad for me. Like, it just going back there every day, I kept making me feel worse about myself, because I kept going there and then feeling self-conscious and then feeling sad and then feeling lonely and just feeling like that. I mean, I was already weird and I was already kind of like ostracized by my classmates, but when your own like supposed friends are ignoring you like that, it's really bad for your self-esteem. Like I was in a really dark place in middle school, and I feel like if I had stopped going there and just like let them, I guess I don't want to say let them win, but this is my point to you guys. If this happens to you, if you've got bad friends and if they don't want to hang out with you, don't worry about it. They were bad in the first place. Like, just go somewhere else. I feel like for me, it would have been better for me to sit alone than to sit with them, because like then I wasn't there for them to mock. Like I wouldn't have been their little like plaything to mock, right? Like I could have just gone elsewhere and then found new friends. Like I could have found new people to sit with, because let's be honest, there are other weird kids in middle school that are having the same thing happen to them. You just find them, sit with them, make your good friends, and then roll with it. Like you don't need to deal with these mean girls, you know, or mean boys, whatever. I don't know how boys in middle school work. That's, God bless, I didn't deal with that. But like that's I guess my advice to you is just, that's not even advice. This is a bad podcast. I shouldn't be giving advice. My point here is that I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have let that happen to me, because like my cat went off the bed. Now she's clawing at my carpet. I don't have time to deal with you right now. Yikes. Okay, but it kind of sucks. The whole thing sucks. And then it happened again my freshman year of high school. I came into high school, I had like one church friend, because I had a church class in middle school to get confirmed. And so I had like one good church friend, and she went to a different middle school than we did. She went to like a private school, and when she came to high school, she had no friends from private school that went to our high school, so she came in knowing nobody. And so I kind of introduced her to all my high school friends, and then she went and tried to turn them against me and then did the same thing. They abandoned me at lunch freshman year of high school. I sat alone in freshman and sophomore year of high school at lunch. Yikes. And then junior year, I had a couple good friends that turned on me as well. And so I sat, oh no, I did the lunch thing again. Junior year, I didn't talk about this ever on my channel, but junior year, okay, so at my high school, there was 2 different lunches. There was like first lunch and second lunch, and you had it based on what class your like mid-block class, or what buildings your mid-block class were in. So if you had like your mid-block class in the lower house buildings where like the freshmen and sophomores are, then you have first lunch. But if they're in the upper class buildings, they're in the second lunch, right? Or I confused myself just then, but like you understand that like, so half the school has first lunch if you have it like this period, if half the school has second lunch, and then there's like a whole like time block thing. It's a lot. It's very confusing. But all of my friends when I was a freshman, sophomore had a different lunch than I did. And so because when I was a freshman and sophomore, I was taking like a high level math class. And so my math was in the upper house buildings. So I had second lunch, but all my friends were in lower house buildings. So they all had first lunch. So I had a lunch with like 2 friends, freshman and sophomore year. Turned out to be bad friends, abandoned me. And then junior year, the opposite thing happened. Like I was taking a class that was only offered in like the other buildings. So I had like first lunch my junior year with 2 other friends. It was like my one good friend and then her friend. And then I had a falling out with one friend. I forget what happened, but she was being very mean to me. Like this is like an iconic, like classic Susan of all Susans girl. And she was being awful to me. So I just sort of dropped her as a friend. I'll get into that in a second. And then I sat with them at lunch for the rest of the year for like 4 months and didn't speak. So they just sat there and they talked, and I sat next to them and didn't speak for 4 months every day at lunch. This was junior year. And then senior year, my friends were at lunch with me. So I was fine senior year. But the rest of high school and middle school, I had a really bad school experience. Like, I didn't think about it as being that bad until just now. But, like, looking back on my middle school and high school times, like, I had a really bad experience. Because I feel like now I would never let that happen. Like, now that, because this is going to sound so dumb, but I've kind of embraced, like, myself a little bit more. I'm a lot more confident now because of YouTube, solely because of YouTube. But now I would never let that happen. Like, I would never just sit in silence at lunch and, like, be mocked for 3 years, ever. Like, that was, I mean, I was so different, like, 2 years ago. Like, my junior year of, I just graduated 2 months ago. My junior year of high school, just a year and a half ago or so, I was letting this happen to me. I don't know. Wow. That's dark, you guys. So my pro tip to you is don't let that happen to you. Don't be that kid. You don't have to be that kid. This is a bad podcast. I'm not giving any good advice. I'm just talking about these things. But, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of jumping all over the place too, but I guess my point here is that I also had bad school experiences, and so if you're having them, you'll turn out okay. Because I think I turned out okay. Because I came out of high school, I'm fine. Like, I'm so glad to be done, but I'm fine. And I feel like as long, this isn't going to happen to you either. Like, if it hasn't happened yet, the chances of you having a bad experience are, I mean, you're probably going to have a few bad things happen. You're going to meet some bad eggs in school, but like, you aren't always going to have these awful things happen to you. So if you're worried about it, don't be. Just find some good friends that aren't gonna make you sit alone at lunch and abandon you like that. Because if you've got friends that say things like, wow, we never actually liked you, they're probably not good friends and you shouldn't deal with them. That was in my next point. I got asked, someone said, this is from Anonymous, they said, how do you drop a friend nicely? If you have a friend that's too clingy and you don't want to hang out with anymore, oh my. Okay, well, I'm gonna back up. I'm not gonna talk about a clingy friend, but if you want to drop a friend nicely, I have dropped a friend in the past. Only once. I've been dropped by my middle school friends, clearly, but I've dropped one friend, the girl from junior year that I sat with at lunch, still, after I dropped her. And it's hard to drop a friend. By drop, I mean, like intentionally stop being friends with them because they're, I guess, a toxic person. Like, in my case, I had this friend that was just awful to me. She used to, I mean, like, it was one of those things where you had, like, friendly banter that got taken way too far, and so we would just be talking, and then she would just, like, push too many buttons to a point where, like, it moves on from, like, funny little banter with your friend to, like, wow, you're actually hurting my feelings, and she continuously took it too far, and she knew she was hurting my feelings, but, like, kept it going. One time, for example, my sophomore year, this boy in my English class was like, you know what, Kayla, you're way too pale and way too skinny. And, like, I'm kind of a twig. Like, I feel very self-conscious about my body sometimes because I've got noodle arms. I'm a little person. You know, I'm, again, like, very skinny. And this boy was like, you know what, Kayla, you're way too pale and way too skinny. And my friend, Susan, we'll call her, was like, actually, yeah, you kind of are way too pale and way too skinny. And, like, in that situation, my friend probably should have defended me. Like, should have been like, hey, yo, buddy, don't make fun of my friend like that. But instead, she was like, yeah, wow, you're too pale and too skinny. And, like, these are things that I'm already self-conscious about. And when you have a friend, like, I feel, maybe it's just me, but I feel like my friends should be helping to defend me and build me up, not, like, aid some person in tearing me down. Like, what kind of friend is like, yeah. Like, if you have a person, like, making fun of you and then your friend is like, oh, they're right. Yeah, no, you are too pale and too skinny. Like, what kind of friend, I don't know. Bad friend. A bad friend does that. And, like, she used to do things like go places without me. Like, she would have, like, her core friend group and they would, like, go out and they wouldn't invite me and then be like, oh, sorry, like, forgot to send you a text. And, like, she would just, it was a lot. And she also thought she was way better than me. Like, this is so bad. She was one of those people that just, she had a pretty, like, high and mighty attitude. And she thought she was a lot better than me, and she used to mock my YouTube channel, and she was like, oh, that's cute, you're a YouTuber, because this is back when I had, like, maybe 3,000 subscribers, and so, I mean, I was, like, a cute YouTuber, but I took it very seriously, and she did not, and I'd be like, oh, sorry, I can't, like, when I did get invited to things, I'd be like, oh, you know, I can't go out this Thursday to a movie because I have to stay home and edit. And she'd be like, oh, and you have to edit, why? It doesn't matter anyway. And I was like, but it matters to me. And she was like, no, it doesn't. And it was a whole thing. So she was kind of a bad person. And I ended up dropping her. And so I'm going to give some advice on dropping friends, I guess. Ugh. But I dropped her. Basically what I did, and I talked about this once before because I felt bad about it. I sent, I don't feel that bad anymore, because when you drop a friend, like, it sucks because you're friends with them and you're just not anymore. But we got into a big fight. Not a big fight, but, like, we got into an argument somehow because she was, like, mocking me, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm not cool with this, and she was like, what do you mean? Like, it's just banter, and I was like, it's not banter anymore, I'm really upset, and then I sent her a whole thing about, I was like, look, I've got, like, some mental health, I can't speak, I was like, look, I sent her, like, a really long text, like, paragraphs in a text, like an essay, right? And I was like, hey, look, Susan, I've got these mental health issues. I'm super anxious. Like, I'm not in a good mental place. And I feel like this is not good for me. Can we, like, talk more about, like, why we need to maybe tone it down a little bit? And then she just got really defensive and, like, it was just bad. And so I was like, okay, this is where Petty Simsie comes in. I just stopped talking to her immediately after that. When I get angry, I just shut up. And so I just stopped talking to her for, like, a week, and then never spoke to her again afterward. Like, the goal was to just not speak to her for a week and then, like, smooth it over, but instead we just never spoke again. So this is probably, like, in October of my junior year. No, it was maybe in, like, April of my junior year. And so from, like, April to the end of school, I just didn't speak to her, and I still haven't spoken to her since, because when I came back to school my senior year, I was ready to like let it go and like be friends again, or just at least be civil. And we were walking out of one of our classes, and I smiled at her, and she just glared at me. And so I was like, okay, we're not friends anymore. Got it. Cool. Good to know. Again, it's kind of my fault because I did drop her like that, but when you have a toxic friend, like, you shouldn't have to keep them in your life because they're just toxic. It's not good to have toxic people like that around you. And if you feel like, if someone makes you feel bad about yourself, you shouldn't like, either fix it by telling them, and if they refuse to help you, like if they keep on making you feel bad about yourself, don't keep them in your life. There's no point in having these toxic friends because, like, what are you getting out of it? Like, I mean, you should be civil with them. Like, okay, here's a life lesson. Don't drop them like I did and just never speak to them because it's going to end badly. But just, you don't have to keep being around them if it makes you feel bad, because there's no point in that. And, you know, or you could make a YouTube video about it, have them see the YouTube video, text you, try and apologize, and then flip a switch and get mad at you for it. Which I talked about the situation in a video once. She saw it, and in the video I was like, if you want to talk, like, text me, please, I feel kind of bad. And then she texted me, apologized to me, and then was like, but take the video down. And I was like, ooh, I don't think so. And then she was like, wow, you're an awful person, blah, blah, blah. And then it was, yeah. So life lessons, if you drop a friend, don't do it like I did, but you're allowed to drop friends if you want to. I'm going to take a little quick break, though, because my recording is going to cut out soon. Oh my god, I hit my microphone. My recording's gonna cut out soon, and so I just rip headphone users, because it only records for 30 minutes at a time. I'm gonna take a quick break, get some water, pet my cat. We'll be back. Maybe there's a mid-roll, I don't know. Okay, we're back. I've had some water. I petted my cat. I texted my mom back. We're good to go now. But I was talking about dropping friends before. I think I'm gonna move on from that because I feel like, well, look, my point is, drop toxic people. Don't keep them in your life, but just be civil about it, because if you do it like I did, you'll create enemies, and you don't want enemies. You just want people that you used to be friends with. You want ex-friends, not enemies. That's a pro tip. Advice from Simsie. Maybe I'm good at this. No, I'm not. But I got a question that wants to know how to deal with Susan, and I'm going to explain this because I feel like most of you know who Susan is, but if you don't, this is the first episode of a new podcast. I think I should address it at least. There's this character I have created called Susan on my channel, and here's some like background behind Susan, right? Because I've got some time. I can just talk as much as I want about Susan. Susan is, she's like a super villain in my mind, right? Like, I have told stories over the last year, almost exactly a year, about Susan. I made the first one on August 14th of 2016. It's almost been a full year of Susan stories, but every time a person from school would like wrong me in any way, I would talk about it in a video, and I'd be like, you guys won't believe what Susan did this time. I would just rant about it, but under the guise of it being like one person. Realistically, Susan that I talked about was many people, but I made this like super villain so that, for one, if I talked about it and I was like, yeah, in my math class she did this, but then in my science class she did this. She wasn't in both classes, so you couldn't like pinpoint one person that was Susan. If you knew me, you wouldn't even know who Susan was, because she was so many people that you couldn't tell. And so every time someone would wrong me, I would be like, you guys, Susan did this thing today, you won't believe it. And in hindsight, probably a bad idea. Granted, when I started doing that, I had like 10,000 subscribers, and so it wasn't really a big deal because no one was seeing them. But by the end of my senior year of high school, when I had 100,000 subscribers, it kind of became a different situation because people started seeing them and finding out about it, and not like people weren't upset about it. It's just my classmates were like, who's Susan, Kayla? And I'd be like, I don't know who Susan is. She's not one person. And they'd be like trying to guess. And I got to a point where even my subscribers, like there was a point at sometime last year that someone was like going through who I was following on Instagram, finding my classmates that way, and then like going through who they're following. And they were like looking through everyone I knew. When they found my school, they found like, I had someone find a list of my graduating high school class, and they were looking through it trying to find out who Susan was. Like, I got tweeted a list of these 600 people in my high school graduating class, all the names, and they were just trying to find out who Susan was from that. So that was terrifying, is that people took it way too far, my classmates and my subscribers, because, yeah, I mean, the fact that someone found my graduating class, like, it's not that hard to find my high school because, like, I'm following my friends on Twitter, and, like, they had, like, my high school in the bio and stuff. Like, I understand that. But to go to the extreme of like finding a list of the graduating seniors, that's scary. And I didn't know how to handle that. Like, I mean, this is off topic. I was going to talk about just Susan's in general, but I didn't know how to handle that when it happened. And I don't know. So I guess my point here is that I made this character called Susan, who is every supervillain, every mean girl. She's the classic high school mean girl. And I mean, she is my high school mean girl. It's just she's many of my high school mean girls all at once. And so I get a lot of questions like, Kayla, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with a mean girl in school? Because everyone's got a mean girl in school. Like, there's always one person. Maybe it's a bully. Maybe it's just like the snooty mean girl. Like we're talking Regina George. Like Susan is Regina George, and we all have a Regina George of some sort. Like everyone's got a mean girl. And I'm going to talk about how I think you should deal with it, because here's how I dealt with it. I made a YouTube channel where I ranted about it, which is probably a bad idea in hindsight because, again, they see it. And then here's the thing, because people were getting accused of being Susan. Like I had these followers of mine that were going through, they were finding people on Instagram that they thought might be Susan. Like there's this one girl that I had one class with my like sophomore year that was getting Instagram DMs that were like, you're Kayla Susan, watch this video. And so this random girl that I talked to maybe a couple times was getting DM'd on Instagram, being accused of being Susan by some random. And like, she was not Susan. Like, she's just a girl from my school, and people were accusing her. It was very bad. It was not a good situation. So that, I mean, I dealt with it the wrong way. I don't think you should rant about it, but I do on the internet. I do think that you should find a friend. This is also probably bad advice, because if you're older than me and you're like, you know that you shouldn't talk about people, because here's the thing, you shouldn't talk about people. That's just a life lesson. Like, don't talk about people, especially not on the internet. But I feel like it helps to find a person that you can talk to about these sort of things. Like if some girl is making your life miserable at school, like you should find someone you can talk to about it. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's like your neighbor, who knows. I'm sorry. I'm having a very hard time just talking like this. I'm looking at my computer screen. So if you see me like looking down, I'm looking at computer screens. I've got stuff up here, okay? I've got stuff to deal with. But my advice is to find a person, like someone you trust, absolutely trust, because you don't want to just rant to somebody about somebody else and then find out they're friends like that. Just find your like one person that you can talk to about it and just explain why this person sucks, why Susan is the worst. And just let yourself rant. It helps to rant. I mean, you get angry, and it's not always good that way, but just to talk it out, to rant about it, really is helpful. Trust me. I've been doing it for a year, and it helps so much to just get it off your chest. Like, for me, I mean, I have these stories where Susan, like, here's the example. On my first ever Susan story was on the first day of school, of my senior year, and I came into my TV production class, and I got put in this class that I wasn't supposed to be in, and so I was going to switch out of it. So when I got there, I just went, and I already knew I was going to go to guidance and like get out of the class. So when I got there, I had to go that day anyway, because I hadn't like gotten out of it yet, because I was going to get put into a different, like I was going to move from like 5th period to 6th period, like that kind of thing. So I went into my class, and I realized that I was going to get out. So I just went, and I sat in the back kind of alone, because I wasn't even supposed, like I was supposed to be in there. Like I was just going to sit in the back, get it over with, and leave, and you know. And so I go up, the first day of school, mind you, first day of school, I walk in, I go straight to the back, I just sit at a table by myself, because I wasn't going to just go and like find a seat and like be active in the class, because I wasn't supposed to be there. And so I went to the back, sat down alone, was just chilling, I was perfectly happy doing that. But then this girl, we'll call her Susan, and another girl who was one of the middle school bullies we talked about, yeah, so middle school bully and then Susan, the original Susan, were sitting together, and they're like, oh, Kayla, don't be so sad and alone over there all by yourself. Come here, pull up a chair, come sit with us. Don't be so sad and lonely over there. Like with this absolute horrible condescending tone to me. Like, don't be so sad and lonely, Kayla, come sit with us. And that just made me so angry, because when a person treats you like a charity case, it hurts so deep, because I'm not sad and lonely. I don't need your help. I don't need to sit with you. If I wanted to, I would have sat there, because there was an open seat. Like I could have sat there, but I chose to sit here because I don't need to sit there. Like I'm not a charity case, Susan. And so I was just so angry about this. And I mean, the same girl in the past had like done things, I don't know, she'd like, for example, I knew her since like 2nd grade. She never learned my name. This is my senior year of high school. She didn't know my name until like that. I mean, it was a lot. And so obviously I was not her biggest fan. And so I ranted about this in a video. What am I talking about? I don't have advice for you. about dealing with Susans. I guess my advice about this sort of thing, like if you have a mean girl like that you just, I mean, the thing is it's bad to hate people, but we all have someone that we just absolutely hate, you know? And if you have that, just avoid them. If you can, avoid them. If you have to talk to them, be civil. Don't be mean back. Like, it doesn't help to be mean back, obviously. And just find a person to rant to, because it really helps to rant about someone, I promise. It's all around a good time to rant about things, which sounds bad, but it's true. Like, just ranting really helps you feel better. I would know. I do a lot of it. But the ranting, I mean, like, it just helps to get it off your chest. I already said that, but, like, just talk it out, you know? Even to yourself. Like me, I come in here, I talk to myself. I talk to this very microphone right here about Susans. I have to set it back up now. I just come in here, I sit at this very desk, I just rant about things, and then I happen to share it to the internet, but you don't have to do that. You can just talk to your mom or your cat, or like just let it out, get your anger out, but when you meet them in person, be civil, because when you're mean to them, it doesn't help. Like, don't give them anything to use against you. I'm like swinging my headphones around. Ugh, this is not going well. But like, just don't be mean in person. Don't fight fire with fire. That's good advice. If there's a bully, don't bully them back. Report them. Don't let them like wipe the floor with you or anything. But if there's a bully, don't be mean back. It doesn't help. I mean, you want to defend yourself, but you don't have to. I promise. Don't feed into their trolling. Like, just let it be, okay? What am I even talking about? I feel like I'm trying to be, this is an advice podcast, I know, supposedly an advice podcast, but I feel like I'm trying very hard to make it good advice, even though I know that it's not going to be, because I'm me, and it's physically impossible for me to give good advice. But you know what I'm talking about, you guys. Like, just don't fight fire with fire. If they're mean to you, be civil. You don't have to be nice, but you have to be civil. And that's, I think, decent advice. And again, like, just, you have to put up with it. That's the thing. Like, with Susans, like, the Susan that I had wasn't necessarily, like, she wasn't bullying me. She just, again, thought she was better than me. And so, wait, I said Susan and Siri came up. No, sweetie. No. This is not, you're not Susan. Look at you see, oh, this is a quick little thing for just the viewers on YouTube. My lock screen is a picture of my friends and I at Disneyland. But they all live very far away. I'm going to do a podcast about having internet friends, I think, and just like what it's like to have friends that live far away, because it's very hard to have friends all across the country and the world. I've got a best friend in Arizona, Wisconsin, and London. Like, it's hard to have that, but I could talk about that. I'm going to talk about also, like, again, the high school and middle school, like, starting school thing. I got a lot of questions about, like, even, like, YouTube stuff, which I'm probably not going to talk about YouTube or The Sims on here really that much, because I don't know. I am going to talk about, like, YouTube drama. I'm going to have my friend Steph, I think, come on. We're going to talk about, like, Jake Paul and stuff, because I think it'll be a good time. And the Emoji Movie, I'm going to have a whole rant about that. I've got a lot of stuff planned. But again, if you want to, guys, if you want to go ahead and submit questions or topics and things, I've been looking, like, I have right now my Tumblr open, and I've got these 4 questions, like, about dropping friends and stuff. I've got them open. And so if you have, like, things you want to know specifically, like, if you want to drive the conversation, it is a conversation with just me, but if you want to drive the conversation, let me know. Just send it in a question. Again, it can be anonymous. Like, all 4 of these were anonymous that I was talking about today. But you can also leave your Tumblr name if you want to. Like, it's all up to you. I find that it's probably easiest to be anonymous, because then you don't have to worry about any backlash. But if you aren't anonymous, I'll say your name. We can talk. But yeah, so that, I guess, what's going on. But I am going to have guests. Let's talk about podcast stuff now, because we talked about enough stuff already. Let's talk about podcasting. I'm going to have guests. I'm going to have, like, my close friends. Like, I'm going to name drop really fast. Like, Steph Sims, who is a YouTuber also. You might know her. And, like, my good friend, like, Callie and Zoe. Some of my high school friends might come on. I've only got 2, but they could come on. You know, like, just, like, YouTube friends, all that stuff. But my mom's going to be a guest on the podcast eventually. We can have my sister on. And it could just be me too, but, like, I plan on having guests decently often, because I feel like it makes it more conversational that way. But, like, when we talk about high school, I might have a guest from my high school on, and so we can talk about it together, just about our experiences in general in high school, because I feel like it's helpful to have a guest, and then you can meet my friends, and then we can just talk. And that way I'll have a lot of fun. This podcast is for me. I need to have an outlet to just talk to myself, and that's what this is. But you get to watch it. Lucky you, or listen to it. Again, it's going to be on iTunes. It's hard to get it on iTunes, so I'm working on it. It should be up maybe, I hope by the day this goes up on YouTube, but if it's not on iTunes yet, it will be soon. I'll have it linked when it is, but do that. I guess, I don't know much about podcasting, like as a podcaster. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I don't know much about like how podcast behind the scenes stuff works. I'm still figuring it all out, but you can like leave a review on iTunes if you want to. I hear that helps. And another thing, I'm going to have sponsors eventually on this podcast, which is a little bit, I feel like, taboo for me because I don't ever have like sponsored YouTube videos. But to make this podcast sustainable, I kind of need to. So I'm going to have some sponsors on the podcast. It won't be like a big issue. I think it'll just kind of roll right through it. You aren't even going to notice I'm doing it, I think. I'm going to have like a little sponsored segment and then you're just, but all podcasts have sponsors really. So it's not going to be anything different than normal podcasts. But I just, I want another microphone for when I have guests, and I only have this little buddy right here. And if I want another one, I'm gonna need to have some sponsors on the podcast. But yeah, I guess that's all the cleaning house stuff. I didn't even do that bad today. I feel like my main issue on YouTube is that I talk too fast. And I feel like maybe in the beginning I was talking too fast, but I've slowed down a little bit. Is my cat not there anymore? Oh, she's over there now. She's behind me. She's hiding. I was like, where did it go? Right there. Okay, at least I had a guest today featuring my cat. Her name is Snapper. Let's talk about that. I don't know. At the end of the podcast, we can just talk about random stuff, right? So my cat's name is Snapper. Here's a sad story. My parents named all of our pets after fish because my dad was a captain, still is a captain. And so our pets are all fish names. Like our first dog, who is dead, sorry, he died when I was a baby, was Tarpon. And then we had Snook, he's also dead. Now we have Mako, which is a shark, Bimini, which is like a fishing knot, so it doesn't really fit the theme, but that's okay, and Captain, which is, it's not exactly a fish, but it fits the theme. Our cats are named Pogi and Snapper. Pogi's like a bait fish because he's bait for the Rottweilers. He's bigger than this cat, a lot bigger. This one's Snapper. I call her Snap Cat, which, by the way, started before Snap, she's 10. So just turned 10 in June, and so I was calling her Snapcat way before Snapchat existed. So Snapchat stole my brand. I'm just putting that out there, but Snapcat over here is my best friend. We hang out together all the time. Oftentimes, she's like, when I record videos, she's either on my lap or like right there where you see her now. She's always in here. We just chill together. It's a thing. That's her spot. She sits there. We hang. We watch Downton Abbey together. Good times. Just good times all around. She's a good cat. She's my best friend. It's really sad, but she's a nice kitty. And the poor thing has had to deal with so many just mean animals. Like, she hates my dogs because they're mean to her. Because the thing is, here's my theory about cats and dogs. I think that cats are good with dogs as long as they are introduced to the dog when the cat is back up. So when a cat is old, you can't put a puppy near it. Like, the cat doesn't want I don't think any cat wants to deal with a puppy. Like, cats hate puppies because puppies are mean to cats. Puppies are big, especially Rottweiler puppies. Like, Rottweilers are big. The puppy is bigger than the cat, and they chase them. They're mean to them. Like, cats hate puppies. But dogs tend to like kittens, at least in my experience. So if you're going to have a cat like a dog, the cat has to be a baby when you introduce it to them, because otherwise, like, this cat hates the dogs. But my other cat likes two of the dogs because he was a baby when they were older, and hates the puppy because puppy's mean to him. Although they don't hate, no, the other cat doesn't hate anybody. This one's just bitter. This cat hates everyone, but she's old. She's like me. She's old, likes to be alone, and hates most people and things. But, and we're close. Her and I are tight. Where has this podcast gone? What am I even talking about? We're off the deep end. Okay, because we started talking about, middle school bullies, and now we're talking about cats. I don't know. I hope I did a good job. I'm trying very hard to not do a bad job, but I feel like it's inevitable, so I don't know. I don't even know what else to talk about. I guess we can go back to, the middle school thing, because I briefly mentioned the high school situation. I've never talked about the high school thing in depth, because there's a lot more, my freshman year of high school was the worst year of my entire life, not because of just the school. I had some school stuff, I had that bully going on with girls, I had this mean girl in high school freshman year, who was like spreading rumors and like trying to turn my friends against me. Like she was going, it was like a movie plot. Like she was going and she was like telling my friends lies to make them hate me, which of course they didn't believe, most of them, because like they knew that I would never do those things. But like she was lying about me. And there's like some other like life stuff, like mental health stuff. Can we get like not a good time. Freshman year was really bad for me, and also just like family stuff. Like it was just freshman year, and the thing is, I'm scared to talk about all of that in depth. I might do a podcast eventually about that sort of thing. It's just I have never talked about it on the internet yet, and so I'm just kind of scared to like tell the whole story as to why it sucked so bad. But it wasn't really about school that was the problem. It was just like life that was the problem. Middle school though, that was because of people. Middle school, I had some real bad people in my life that were just horrible to me and made my time miserable. And I kind of fed into it by letting them be mean to me. But again, it wasn't my fault. Like, I didn't do anything wrong in middle school. I just had these awful friends. I mean, I was super weird. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I was the weird kid, and I get that. Like, there's gonna be a weird kid always. It was me in middle school. And luckily, I turned out okay. I mean, I still make Sims videos for a living, so maybe I'm still a little weird. But, like, I've embraced the weird. Back then, I was very ashamed of the weird. And that's the problem. If I had just embraced it, it wouldn't have been so bad. I don't know. But yeah, I had these awful friends that just made it so bad for me. So I hope that you guys don't have that same experience. I really do, because none of you deserve that. You guys don't deserve to have these terrible people in your lives. You're good people. If you're watching my podcast, I can guarantee you're a good person. And if people are being mean to you, I don't know how to deal with that. If you've got any specific questions, like specific situations, I could probably talk more on it, but just in general, you don't have to put up with it. You can get away from that. You can make new friends. You can find new people. My cat, what are you? She knows that we're seeing her do this. You're on camera, Snapcat. She's gonna have to be like a regular guest now. At this point, I can't have a podcast without her on it, because it's gonna be bad without her, right? Okay, but my main point here is that you don't have to put up with it. You can find new friends. You can find people in similar, because the thing is, like, you can join a club. Sounds kind of weird, but like, you can join a club. You can find an internet community. Like, when I found The Sims, the Sims community on Twitter is very accepting and like just good in general. Like, you just find a thing you love to do and seek out those people, and they will be your good friends because you're like-minded. You have the same interests. Like, those are good friends. Don't, like, your school friends, this is bad news for most of you, I'm sorry, but like your school friends, like my middle school friends, to be honest, we didn't have much in common. Like, we just had some classes together. Like, your school friends, you're kind of just friends because you got forced together, but maybe it's more than that. But like, most of my school friends, we were just friends because we were there. Like, if I wasn't in school with them, I wouldn't have been friends with them. Like, if they weren't in all my classes, we wouldn't have been friends. And so it's hard to, like, there's not really a bond there aside from just being stuck together. But when you find friends, like, from things that you love, like, maybe it's a sports team, maybe you're, like, your soccer friends, or, I don't know. But when you find friends like that, it's a lot better, I think. Because, again, you're like-minded. That's important. Even, like, YouTube friends, like, maybe you love YouTubers, or maybe you love books. Like, I maybe, like, comic books. I don't know. Find a thing and then find those people. That's my advice. Am I doing good at this? I hope so, because I did that. I found The Sims, and it was very helpful to me. I could do a whole podcast about how The Sims has changed my life. That's a whole other thing, though. That's another time. That's a different podcast. That's a podcast. That's a lot. I'm not going to get into that, but I think I'm going to end this podcast pretty soon, because we're getting on to like 50 minutes, which I feel like is a good first episode length. They're going to be like from 50 to 60, I think. Probably not longer than that, because that's just too much. And also my camera only records 30 minutes at a time, so longer than 60 is just not going to work. But like, anywhere from 50 to 60 is kind of a good estimate for these podcasts. Again, every Monday at noon Eastern time, that's 5 p.m. London time and 9 a.m. California time. So wherever you fit on that scale, maybe you're like Australia, I have no idea what time it is there, but Monday morning, afternoon, Monday at noon, podcast episodes go up, and you can watch them or listen to them, whichever you may please to do. And also, guys, submit the questions and topics. That's linked down below too on Tumblr. All that. Subscribe. And maybe if you're new maybe you don't know my channel. Maybe you're new. Doubtful. Maybe you found this podcast. Subscribe to my main channel too. I've got a main channel called Lil Simsie where I do Sims gameplay. I've got a Twitter for the podcast and for my YouTube channel, Lil Simsie and Hey Simsie. Those are linked. I've got an Instagram. It's called Hey Simsie. Or Lil Simsie. Oh my god. I've got a Snapchat that's just Lil Simsie. You can add me on there. I post dumb stories, but that's okay. You can see my cat more often. She's a celebrity now, basically. A cat celebrity. Yeah, I'm gonna go now. We're off the deep end. But with that being said, and my camera cut out. But with that being said, it died. We made it though, almost. With that being said, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube things. And in case you guys didn't know, I post new videos every single day. And so I will see you all tomorrow. Wait, that was my other channel outro. I don't have an outro for the podcast. Just bye. Bye. That's it. Just bye.